This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area. Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
Quiet on the set. Soon we will all be more informed.
We appreciate learning more of our region's news and public affairs. Cameras rolling.
Hello, I'm Marcia Cavanaugh. Thanks so much for joining us. In 1776, John Adams wrote that henceforth the days celebrating July 4th would include parades, illuminations, and shows. He was right on all predictions, including in the future an annual music show in New Orleans called Essence, and we will look tonight at the story behind the festival. Less festive are two business stories: the condition of the Archdiocese as it faces serious bankruptcy issues, and why two businesses have recently relocated from downtown to Elmwood. Our Future Watch segment examines the legality of cannabis-related items now on the market, and we will take a special look at the career of the late council member and legislator Jackie Clarkson. And joining us are tonight's Informed Sources: Errol, Laborde, producer of Informed Sources; Stephanie Riegel, staff writer, the Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate; Don Ostrom, Channel 12's Future Watch reporter; and LeBron Joseph, news anchor and reporter, WGNO-TV, Channel 26. All right, Steph, we'll go on over to you because you have been following all along the story of the bankruptcy filing by the Archdiocese of New Orleans. So where do we stand now?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been really interesting lately. We're now into the 5th year of this case, 2 months into the 5th year.
5 years, that's hard to believe.
Well, it's been 4 years, but we're into the 5th year, you know. And so recently there have been a couple of interesting developments that could start to move the needle on this. For one thing, you had one of the church's major insurance companies in town at the table this week, meeting behind closed door in mediation settlement talks for the first time. And the participation of the insurance companies in all this is really, really important because they're going to be asked to put up a portion of whatever pot of settlement funds the Archdiocese comes up with. The Archdiocese is going to put up some amount of money, whether it's $50 million or $100 million or $200 million. I don't think plaintiffs are going to want to settle for $100 million, but that's a different issue, and I don't really know. But they're going to put up a chunk of money. But in order for that pot to be big enough to really entice enough of the abuse survivors to accept the settlement, you're going to need the participation of the insurance companies and also of the affiliates, the parishes that are not technically in bankruptcy, but are, of course, under the umbrella of the Archdiocese. So they're all going to have to be putting up money. And some of the things that could really affect the dynamics of this are that earlier this month, as you are probably aware, the Louisiana Supreme Court upheld the windows statute. That was a law passed by the legislature a couple of years ago that basically did away with any sort of statute of limitations.
Also called the look-back clause.
Right, and it opened a window or a look-back window for 3 years. Now that's till 2027, giving past survivors of childhood sex abuse an opportunity to file suit, and because the laws had been just ridiculous and had really constrained whether they could sue these people. Now, this won't directly affect the bankruptcy at this point, but should that plan fall apart or a great enough number of the abuse survivors decide that they don't want to accept whatever the Archdiocese comes up with, this clears the way for them now to go back to state court and file those old lawsuits. And so that is really sort of a leverage that they didn't have before, you know.
That look-back clause had been taken away, but then the Supreme Court went back and said, no, we're going to reopen that window.
Right. So the
What happened there?
Well, it was, one could speculate. Why would the Supreme Court reverse its decision on something so controversial? I don't know. Or we're not supposed to think that perhaps they're subject to any sort of political influence, but they obviously had good reason to rethink the decision. It was very controversial. Lower courts had upheld the constitutionality of the law, which had been passed in 2022, and then the Supreme Court in March had said, no, it's not constitutional, and then under pressure and a request from Attorney General Liz Murrell, in April, they said, we'll reconsider it, and then they came out and said that, in fact, the law is constitutional. 2 of the members of the bench flipped. 2 of the others maintained their dissent, but you only needed a majority opinion. Okay. Then there's another significant ruling that happened just yesterday. The United States Supreme Court issued a ruling in the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy case, and that basically said that the Sackler family is not shielded from future lawsuits over opioid abuse just because they contributed a hefty $6 billion to the Purdue Pharma case. And that could have some bearing on whether the parishes are ultimately protected in any sort of bankruptcy settlement plan of the Archdiocese of New Orleans. It's not clear cut. It's very complicated. I won't get into the technicalities, and I probably couldn't explain them well anyway. But it could have some bearing on it. Ultimately, it's going to give some of these plaintiffs a little more leverage in the negotiation. They're not really necessarily negotiating, but it's affecting the thinking as this settlement is moving forward. So it's a sticky situation, and it's possible it could blow up at this point. I'm not saying it will, but it still could. That's happened in Long Island, or right outside of Long Island, where there's a big archdiocesan bankruptcy case. It's cost them $100 million so far in legal fees. It also has gone on for 4 years, and it is on the brink of collapse because the 2 sides can't come together and agree on the amount.
And so meanwhile, the plaintiffs just continue to wait.
And meanwhile, the plaintiffs just continue to wait, right.
And the Archdiocese, is it continuing to sell off properties?
The Archdiocese is slowly selling off some properties. I mean, the reality is there are a lot of probably the properties that would generate the most money aren't properties that they're going to want to sell, because that's where they have active parishes in prosperous areas, right? And they're in a reorganization bankruptcy. They're not trying to liquidate everything they have. I mean, they are not insolvent, as they said when they filed 4 years ago and notified the Vatican. We can pay our bills. This is a way to come up with a plan to try to equitably pay off abuse claims. Now, equitably is in the eye of the beholder, and what they can afford is also an open question, because both sides quibble over the value of their assets.
So we can look forward to more future reporting on this from you.
I think this will be months and months before they come up with a plan, at best. And then we have to negotiate over whether they're going to accept the plan, and then who gets a share of the plan, because that's a whole separate process. It'll be determined by like a claims administrator.
All righty, Stephanie, thanks a lot. Complex situation, that's for sure. All right, LeBron, over to you. Okay. All right, we're looking at Essence Fest again.
Looking at Essence Fest again. This is the 30th Essence Festival.
Wow.
And I guess, if anything, the sentimental act that everyone wants to see would be the folks who've closed the Essence Festival for the first decade and a half, 2 decades. That would be Frankie Beverly and Mays, and there are folks that everyone wants to see. There's a big tribute for them. And what's also pretty poignant about Frankie Beverly and Mays as a group is that this is probably their last tour.
Which was Frankie Beverly?
Yeah, he's in the middle with the hat on.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
like a handsome, happy group of guys.
There you go. A group with a history that did an album here in New Orleans in the 1980s that became one of their biggest sellers. Some of their biggest hits are on that album. And while that's the sentimental act folks want to see, you still have the superstars, the Janet Jacksons on Sunday night. You have Usher on Saturday night, Cash Money Millionaires tribute on Friday night. And 3 nights at the Superdome, 3 days at the Convention Center. But the festival has grown to include so much more in this 30 years. Certainly this current spate of owners of the Essence magazine group, Global Black Economic Forum, Essence Film Festival, Essence Food and Wine Festival. So many different things. I don't know how you can go to all of it. I've never, in these last couple of years, done more than 2 or 3 things.
And that's all sort of centered there in the Dome area?
This is all a Dome and a convention center, and even some venues around town. I think the biggest controversy, or the biggest knock, if you will, from local business owners is that while everyone admits this is a huge thing, had been very, very good for the city, to the tune of what's claimed $231 million a year from a Dillard study of a couple of years ago, that local businesses aren't getting their share of the pie. And what has even made it a bit tougher has been the origination or the implementation of the clean zones. And by the way, clean zones are not new and not unique to just Essence. There is a clean zone for any large-scale event like the Super Bowl, and essentially designed to protect the brand of that particular event and also protect competing brands, if you will, of their major sponsors. In other words, AT&T is a large sponsor of the Essence Festival. What you don't want is Verizon sponsoring something on Canal Street, if you will, where the clean zone kind of got into the news last year is it had expanded, it had continued to grow for the past several years to include things like the West Bank, the Algiers Levee, Algiers Point, some of that, the Marigny, areas in Tremé and things of that nature. And while I think anyone can understand downtown businesses, if you will, to sort of stretch into those areas makes it a bit difficult. Last year, I think both the festival and City Hall got a bit of a black eye by preventing DJ Johnson, the folks over at Baldwin Books, from conducting an event, and they got a cease and desist. It got in the news. Now, Baldwin is on the corner of Elysian Fields and St. Claude. How is that competing?
With something at the Dome.
Because he was having an event there that had kind of been branded in some sort of ways related to Essence. But business owners can conduct their business. They can open their doors, right?
They can open their doors. I think, and by the way, the city and Essence has heard some of the voices, and this year the zone has shrunk a little bit. Still includes many of those areas that I talked about. It has shrunk a little bit because it was a larger footprint. However, Essence, I think, has done with their version of the olive branch to say, okay, this year what we're doing is inviting businesses that are within the clean zone to apply, if they've got events, apply to be one of our select businesses, if you will. We'll give you a sticker, it goes in your window and all of that. Where it gets a little weird is that means that they're vetting your event.
Right.
And, you know, do we want the fox guarding the hen house, if you will, you know? And
but you don't have to pay for it.
No, you don't have to pay for it.
It has to be vetted
free,
by, okay.
But the event will be vetted, and I think everyone understands wanting to protect something this large and what the economic impact is. It's just a balancing act, which will have to be visited just about every year.
I remember the June after Katrina, that the Superdome wasn't ready, so they had to relocate to Houston.
Yeah, that didn't work too well for them.
Yeah, boy, did they miss Houston. I mean, they missed a lot of comments about it.
They have sworn off of Houston that it will never be Houston. This is obviously one of those, when you hear that people love coming to New Orleans because everything is pretty much compact and all, you know, Essence Fest has been one of those events that has benefited in that way.
And we're happy to have them here.
And the contract goes through, it's a few more years after the year,
It always is extended by a year or two, and there's always a new re-signing. It's tough to sort of keep up with that. I do know that they've committed to a couple of years, and from the CEO and the Essence folks, they've sworn that we're never leaving New Orleans. So hopefully
and everything begins when?
It all begins next week on the 4th of July. It's kind of the kickoff, and it runs through the weekend.
All righty. Thanks a lot.
The 4th is the next Thursday.
All righty. Mr. E, over to you. You wanted to talk about Jackie Clarkson.
Yeah, actually, I got 3 quick stories I want to tell about it. But first, if anybody doesn't know, that Jackie Clarkson was a council member for many years. She was first elected in 1990. She lives on the West Bank, and she represented District C, which includes the West Bank and the French Quarter, which is geographically, it's one of the great districts in the world. I mean, with the French Quarter, a lot of problems, a lot of issues, but she kind of lived a life, and she was a very, it's a beautiful shot of her in the.
It is a lovely picture
in the French Quarter, and that was her. That was her every day. Okay, and if there was an event going on, she'd be at the event. Okay, she wore out her staff. Her staff would complain, "Look, slow down a little bit." Okay. And,
we called her the Energizer Bunny because she was just on the go.
She was very vivacious. But anyway, the 3 stories I wanted to tell is she was elected in 1990. And I remember not long after she was elected, I was at a supermarket in Mid-City in Carrollton in Canal, and I saw her in line, and I had met her before, so we kind of knew each other. and she was mouthing something and pointing, trying to tell me something. I couldn't quite understand. So after we'd both checked out, I went to talk to her. I said, Jackie, what are you trying to tell me? She says, well, I want you to understand something. I was at an event at Xavier, and I had to get something. So I came here, but it's not my district, okay? But I want you to understand that it was because somewhere else that I wasn't shopping in my district. Okay, that's okay. That's fine. The second thing happened in 1992. There was a really contentious issue before the council, and it was one of these things. People were mad. There was divided opinions, and a lot of angry people. And I got there a little late, but I missed. There was one guy I was familiar with who testified before the council, a really sweet, gentlemanly sort of guy. And apparently one of the council members just ripped into him, and some of the people in the audience, it was really rough. A little bit later, there was a break, and I happened to be sitting in the hall, and she passed by. And she was holding a Coke can, and she had right up her face. It was a Coke, just kind of cool off. And she was really upset. And she said, did you see what they did to that man? That poor man, that is so terrible. So I felt so bad. And she started to walk away. Then she turned around and says, she turned back and she says, when I was first elected to the council, I promised myself that I would never let it make me cry. And I'm not going to do it. And you could tell she was just holding back the tears. She was doing that. But the other story was in her dad was a guy named Johnny Brechtel, who was one of the founders of NORD, but who loved theater. So her whole family loved theater. One of her daughters, Patricia Clarkson, is a movie star, and they always loved theater. And she was active, and if you have the theater, she was active in promoting it. Le Petit Theater always had financial problems. It was a big property. And in 2013, it was on the verge of bankruptcy. And so there was this movement, this idea to sell half the property to a restaurant, keep the theater part, but they also have a restaurant. That had some fairly good support, but it also had a lot of opposition. Oh, this is violating the history of the French quarters. Shouldn't do this. There were all kind of legal questions. How do they have the right to sell this? They had to get a judge to come up with some kind of system. And so finally they had this day where there was this vote, and the judge had ruled everybody who's a seasoned subscriber will count as a voter, will have a vote. Does the board have a right to sell half the property? It was a big thing. I mean, they were working, and the thing passed. And that allowed the changes that would happen, which happened since then, is that half was sold to Dickie Brennan, and you have the restaurant Tableau. And it's a wonderful thing. You go there, you got the theater on one side, you got the courtyard, which is shared, you got a restaurant, you got the balconies. It's really great. But anyway, I talked to her several times during this. At that time, she was a council member at large. If you're a big city councilman at large, and you've also been a legislator, and you've been a district council member, the last thing you need in your life is another fight, okay? And this was a fight that had nothing to do with her job, but she was all involved in it. It was an important fight because it was victorious. It saved that theater, which is doing well. It saved that facility. It was really good. And sort of like the irony is that one thing that Dickie Brennan did is that they had a balcony on the side, which wasn't used by the theater along the St. Peter's side. They put tables there where people can go and have dinner. Those tables have become famous in the last few weeks because that's where Latoya Cantrell.
That's right there in that Tableau balcony, right.
And so what happened in 2013 to legalize that kind of played back or kicked back on Latoya Cantrell. Okay. Anyway, she was a great citizen. She was a great council member and a great citizen.
And also, of course, she was in the state legislature as well, and she really gave this community so much. She played a big part in getting the National World War II Museum, then a National D-Day Museum, to be a reality here. So condolences to her family. We love Jackie. Jackie was just such a dynamo. All righty, thanks a lot, E. Okay, Don, over to you. I mean, what is the end result of what is legal regarding the THC, the hemp THC?
It is so confusing.
Yes,
like, is there marijuana that's actually legal in our town and others when we are not a legal state? And the short answer is yes. It's out there and consumable, partly due to the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, the National Farm Bill, which allowed farmers to extract hemp and all its derivatives and have them not be illegal substances as long as they weren't more than 0.3% THC, which is the intoxicating chemical derived from cannabis. So as a result, some crafty business people figured out how to take that 0.3% THC and grow it, or not grow it, but make it larger and make it intoxicating substances and put it in drinks and in gummies and things you vape, and it's completely legal. And states are trying to figure out how to get back around that. Louisiana passed a bill in the last session where portion sizes are reduced from 8 milligrams per serving to 5 milligrams per serving, and you can't package more than 40 milligrams at a time. Well, so you're still packaging something that is definitely has an intoxicating effect. You're supposed to be 21 years old. It's banned now in gas stations. Gas stations have until January of next year to sell out their product, and then it's banned. It's got to be sold only in certain bars and restaurants that already had permission to sell it. Now, the owner of Tipatina says that one of the cannabis-based drinks is his 4th highest selling drink. Consumers like the stuff, but teenagers can certainly get their hands on it, and it's readily available everywhere. We were talking before the show. You can walk into Rouse's or Martin Wine Cellar, just pick up the stuff. Corner grocery stores, and then the smoke shops that have it in the vape material. So states across America are trying to kind of dial back and say, wait a minute, what have we done? But they've completely legalized the THC. The CBD that is also extracted, that you hear about, CBD oils and all that, doesn't have the intoxicating effects. So we're working through it, bottom line. But it is all out there and active, and they're working on bans on the flower hemp products and the THC tinctures. It's like every time you think you've closed one door, another one opens. And I wanted to talk about this more as a warning to parents about this. You think you're watching your kids on one thing and another thing, and these products are readily available right there. Look like a normal can of beer or some other
it's really
seltzer
grown to
drink.
be a big business too.
It is a huge business, and the lobby is one of the strongest lobbies in our state and others, because there's a lot of money to be made here.
So there's still not a lot of clarity about what really can be out there now?
Well, the clarity is that the amount of milligrams allowed, where it's allowed to be sold, how it can be packaged. But it seems like there's a whole lot more room for legislation. There are states around the country that are trying to figure it out right now. For example, there's no enforcement in Texas and the Carolinas right now. There's tons of enforcement in. It's a mess.
But still, like I say, the warning to parents, yet another thing to really
Another
be
thing
on
to worry
guard
about
for.
with your kids.
Right. Okay. All right, Don, thanks a lot. All right, staff, real quick, let's get over to you, because some businesses located in the city have now said they're moving out to JP.
Yeah, we've done a few stories over the past couple of months. One of them is Palmisano Construction, a longtime New Orleans company, now doing business under the name Renegade, RNGD. But they have a beautiful state-of-the-art building on Chapatula Street in the Lower Garden District that they built just in 2018 as their corporate headquarters. And they finalized a deal just recently to relocate to Jefferson Parish, to the Laborde Business Park right near Elmwood. They have a fabrication facility there because they do modular building. But they decided to move the entire corporate headquarters there, which makes sense. But they just built that new building a few years ago. And then even more recently, we reported on Riley Foods has given notice to one of its downtown high-rise buildings where its corporate offices for the food is located, that they're going to move out also to Elmwood. Now, Riley has the family offices in the beautiful historic building in the warehouse district a few blocks away, where they also have that cool little cafe, the Louisiana Cafe, and they're going to keep those offices there. But the foods business is moving to Jefferson Parish. And in fact, there were city agencies, including the NOPD and the DDD and the Homeless Czar, that met with Riley and tried to keep them in the office building. And for all sorts of business reasons, I'm sure it didn't make sense, but it just, again, it was symbolic because of the lineage of that company, just like Palmisano, but even older. I mean, 2 long-time old New Orleans businesses leaving. Makes sense for economic reasons to be in Jefferson Parish, but again, it speaks to a topic we've come back to a lot, and that's the future of our CBD as a CBD, and not the marijuana kind of CBD, but business district, a central business district, which is increasingly a not so busy, empty
Well,
business district,
right.
a hospitality district.
And I mean, it's good news certainly for Jefferson Parish.
It is, and it's good news that they're staying in the region, and not even like the New Orleans metro area. But it is a problem for downtown, or it speaks to some issues downtown. And even Michael Hecht said this, Michael Hecht of GNO Inc. So it's not like we were being negative, reporting any. I mean, Michael was very upfront about saying, yeah, speaks to problems downtown that we still need to address.
But I mean, crime they can be addressing, but the price of parking and other infrastructure issues,
the infrastructure, though,
that's harder to address, is it not?
It is. It is.
If you got 40 employees and everybody's got to park, I mean, imagine what that cost. Or if it's 20 employees or whatever, what you're paying in a parking contract downtown.
You're in the
Is it worth
gallery,
it to the employee to pay for the parking?
And I mean, when you just think about like the concept of community, and so when everybody was downtown and you worked downtown, well, you'd want to work downtown, and
meet you for
you
lunch.
could go meet your friends for lunch. That's a
Yeah.
huge thing. But now it's just a pain. It's a pain in the butt. Nobody wants to do it, and then you're dealing with tourists, and you're dealing with dirt, and you're dealing with filth on the street and infrastructure. So Jefferson's got a better deal right now.
Okay, all right, so they'll be moving there. All right, guys, other stories. Same. Thank you, Steph. E, over to you.
Yeah, the Chemin La Mer restaurant, which is in the Four Seasons, that was the building, that's the hotel that was converted from the World Trade Center, was named by People magazine as one of the 50 most beautiful restaurants in the country. And it has a great view of the Mississippi River and the Donald Link restaurant.
It definitely is a beautiful view. Okay, Stephanie, over to you.
Yeah, City Park announced this week that it has a new CEO just 3 years after its other new CEO, Carol Lambright, came in from Texas, and she was like a rock star kind of administrator for the park and did some great things. But her number two has now stepped into the position, Rebecca Dietz, and she has a lot of insider experience and is going to hopefully now implement some of the master planning process that Kara started.
For our beautiful city park. Don, over to you.
Get ready, get your bags packed. Hurricane season is really upon us. We should have our second name system, if not today, over the weekend. So just a PSA to be ready.
Yeah, be ready, be prepared.
Keep frozen foods out of your freezer. Don't stock up right now.
Exactly. All right, LeBron, over to you.
Just last week, the redfish cull limits have changed to now the sizes of them that you can keep 18 inches, and you can only keep 4 per man per day. Redfish are very popular, and the pressure on that species, just like speckled trout earlier in the year, has had to change because we're fishing a little too much.
Okay,
we're enjoying them a little too much.
We love them. We definitely do. Okay, and I just want to tell everybody that coming up next Wednesday, July 3rd, 9 p.m., the latest in our series where we're taking a look at the restoration of the Louisiana coast, challenges and opportunities, the title of it, Restoring the Coast. We take just an overview of certainly the master plan, the big projects, but all the smaller ones done by people who are actually going out there and trying to do things to help save our coast. That's next Wednesday, July 3rd, 9 p.m. Thanks, guys, for being here. Thank you all for joining us. See you again next week for Informed Sources. Have a good evening.
Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
Public television is our passion. With so much content that WYES broadcasts and presents online, we are quite entertained and highly informed.
Please join us in supporting WYES.
This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.